What's up, Hooper Nation? It's your boy Manny here. Welcome back to the Hoop Report, the Indiana Women's Basketball Podcast, episode number 44. It's bracket breakdown time. This is going to be a longer episode. I would like to think it's not going to be, but again, I know me, and I actually am enjoying doing a lot of these brackets. I'm actually enjoying looking at the RPI, looking at the ARCs, all that kind of stuff. I feel like I have gotten a much better understanding of everything. So I'm not going to skip over too many teams. I might breeze through some other teams, but I'm not going to skip through too many teams. The only thing I will say is all of this is as of Monday. I know this episode is going to come out Saturday, but we're going off of everything that is going off Monday the 19th. All right. Anything that happened during the week after does not affect these brackets right now. I know there's going to be some upsets and there's going to be some big wins, some tough losses, all that kind of stuff. But this is as of Monday going into the week. All right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pretty much go seed by seed. I'm going to talk about each team individually in terms of how many losses they have, the types of losses they have, so what kind of quad wins and losses they have, obviously making a lot of emphasis on quad one games. Then we'll talk about RPIs and the ARCs. All right, and that's kind of how I'm going to break it down. And then I'll throw in some head-to-heads and whatnot. There are some teams that are in the same seed line, but their head-to-heads will matter throughout the episode. And there's those situations where, this team beat this team, who beat this team, who beat this team. There's so many different things like that. So, but that's the gist of it. That's how I'm going to break it down. And we're going to start with the number one overall seed, which are the Freed-Hardeman Lions. They are an auto bid out of the Mid-South. Only one loss in the season so far. That was to quad one Lindsey Wilson. They do have 5 quad one wins. They are back-to-back number ones in the RPI, and they're second in the East Arc. I do believe the East Arc is the toughest arc out there. The way that I'm judging that is off of the RPIs. Who has the tougher, the higher RPI teams at the bottom of each arc? And then obviously who's at the top of these arcs doesn't matter too. But the East off rip you already have the Mid-South, so that's kind of gives them an edge. And you add in the Sun, the AAC, and the Southern States. I do believe that the East arc is the toughest arc this season. Now we're going to talk about the other 3 number 1 seeds. Again, I don't think it's anything in depth to talk about Freed-Hardeman. They are the number 1 team right now in the country, in my opinion. They should be the number 1 seed if the national tournament was to be today. The first number 1 seed we'll talk about, Bethel. All of them are going to be Bethel, St. Francis, Indiana, William Carey. I'm going Bethel first. They have 1 loss in the season. It's the quad 1 UT Southern, 7 quad 1 wins, second in the RPIs, first in the East Arc. So that's why I have them as the second overall seed in the tournament. St. Francis of Indiana out of the Crossroads, 1 loss in the season to quad 1 Marion, 7 quad 1 wins. They have since avenged their loss to Marion. So I think that's a very important note to put out there. Third in the RPIs, first in the North Arc. I believe the North Arc is the second toughest arc. The Crossroads, I'm blanking on the other teams that are in there, but I do feel like the Crossroads is the second, the North, arc is the second toughest in terms of arcs this year. And then William Carey, I know they're undefeated. They have 5 quad 1 wins, but that is the lowest of the other 2 teams. I understand that they're undefeated, but they have the lowest remaining quad 1 wins of these 3 teams that I'm talking about. They're 5th in the RPIs and they're 4th in the East Arc. So I got to give St. Francis and Bethel that nod right now because they have higher RPIs, they're higher in their arcs, and they have more quad 1 wins right now. And the quad 1 losses are only 1 apiece for Bethel and St. Francis. It's not like you've lost 3 or 4 games, right? Those are all my number 1 seeds. Now we're going to head over to the number 2 seed lines. Again, these top seeds are pretty much, I think everybody's got these teams in their top seeds right now. I just think it's more so of a situation where you have them. But I think for the most part, everybody has these teams in these respective seeds. So the next one we're going to do, number 2s, Marion, Rio Grande, Dordt, Campbellsville. I've got Marion as the number 1, number 2 seed. Out of the Crossroads, 2 losses on the season. Both were to quad 1 teams. 7 quad 1 wins, 8th in the RPI, 2nd in the East Arc. Rio Grande out of the River States. 1 loss in the season, 2 quad 1 Marion, so that's why I have Marion above Rio Grande. 3 quad 1 wins, 4th in the RPIs, 3rd in the North Arc. For Dordt, I know they're a little lower than people might have picked them, obviously still on number two seed line, but 1 loss in the season to quad 2 Don. I think that is why that's why I felt that they should be lower. And I do have 9 quad 1 wins. So the reason I didn't put them the lowest 2 seed line is because Campbellsville, who has 3 losses in the season, they have 3 quad 1 losses, 5 quad 1 wins. So yes, the quad 2 loss by Dordt is not a good look. However, they're higher in the RPIs, number 1 in the Midwest, and they have almost double the amount of quad 1 wins that Campbellsville has with no losses. So I think that is where it's going to decide for me. Again, we're splitting hairs, especially when we talk about seed line teams. We're going to be splitting a lot of hairs, and I'm going to say it a lot throughout the episode. This is, as much as I'm talking about numbers and RPIs and standing, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be opinionated to some degree. Yes, we're going to agree on something. Yes, we're going to disagree on a lot. But I do think we have to understand that these bracket stuff, it's just a matter of what do I feel best represents the numbers and the values that I'm seeing on the paper. Some people are going to put more stock in the RPI. Some people are going to put more stock in the ARC. I do think the ARC has a little bit more stock in terms of a national talking point with some of the people I've talked to. So I am going to lean a little bit more to the ARCs. But again, how do you interpret what you see in terms of numbers is the biggest thing here. Number 3 seeds, Dakota State, Dakota Wesleyan, Cumberlands of Kentucky, and Loyola. I got Dakota State as the overall number 3 seed in this line. Out of the Frontier, 3 losses this season to quad 1 teams, 2 quad 1 wins. They did lose to Dordt, Rocky Mountain, and Carroll. Right, those are the teams that they lost to, or that they lost to. Dakota Wesleyan out of the GPAC, 4 losses this season to quad 1 teams, 4 quad 1 wins. The biggest thing for them, because their RPI is the lowest out of these 4 teams, and by a good margin. Dakota State's at 13, Cumberlands of Kentucky's at 10, and then Loyola's at 11. The reason I'm going with Dakota Wesleyan as the second number 3 seed, they have a very big win over Campbellsville. And at the time, that was Campbellsville's first loss this season. So I got to give a little bit of stock to that. They are also the higher team in the Midwest. They're higher than Cumberlands and Loyola, who, yes, I know they're in the East, but Cumberlands is 8th in the East Arc, and then Loyola is 6th in the East Arc, right? And then Dakota State's number 1 in the West. If you're number 1 in your arc, I tended to give you the highest seed line in your respective seed, just because I think that is the right thing to do. If you're the number 1 team in an arc in a super conference that includes 4 different conferences altogether, I think you got to get a little bit of respect there. If you have a good enough resume in other places, obviously. But that's why I have Dakota Wesleyan there. It's not that solidified. I do believe there's a world where they drop to the bottom of the number 3 seed line. I think they're number 3 seed team, but they're hanging their hat on that Campbellsville win. They're going to need another big win in the GPAC, though, to kind of give me more to go off of to keep them this high in the 3 seed. Cumberlands of Kentucky, they have 3 losses in the season, all to quad 1 teams. They have 4 quad 1 wins, same number as Dakota Wesleyan. I just feel like their wins in quad 1 does not have the same. There's none of them in there that has the same level of cachet that the Campbellsville win has for Dakota Wesleyan. And then we talk about Loyola. They're going to be out of the Southern States, obviously. 2 losses in the season to quad 1 teams, 3 quad 1 wins, 11th in the RPIs, 6th in the East Arc. There is an argument to be made that I should have flipped Loyola and Cumberland. This was before kind of talking to a few people that since have kind of given me the notion that the ARCs are going to be that a little more important than the RPIs. Because, and again, the RPIs, if you're pretty close in the RPIs like Cumberland and Loyola are, 10 and 11 respectively, I don't know. After that, I look kind of away from the RPIs. But the ARCs, especially with Loyola being 6th and Cumberland being 8th, I think I should have definitely flipped them. What I went to was, and again, for me, quality wins are a little more, I don't know. I feel like that could be a good tiebreaker because right now, Cumberland has 4 quad 1 wins. Loyola has 3. Now, they've played a different amount of quad 1 games. I get that. But I do think that the quad 1 wins even if by one, should have a little bit of weight. All right. Again, after talking to some people, they've kind of geared me in the direction of I should have probably gone Loyola over Cumberland because of the arc situation and them being higher in the East arc and then being in the same arc. But it's one of those things that I'm figuring out as this process goes. I will say if I'm off by one seed line, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I'm going Loyola as a 4 seed, Cumberland as a 3 seed. You know, I do think they're both 3 seed teams. I just should have flipped them probably in terms of where they are in the 3rd seed, but I still think that they are 30 seed material, and I think they could move up. Dakota Wesleyan, again, is that team that could probably move down just because you're kind of holding on to one win. You're going to need to have a good showing in the GPAC, in the rest of the GPAC, to really solidify that 3 seed. Now we're going to go to the 4 seeds. We've got Columbia, Lindsey Wilson, Eastern Oregon, Evangel. Columbia, they're the number 1 overall 4 seed. Lindsey Wilson, Eastern Oregon, and Evangel rounded out. Columbia, their RPI is lowest. They have only one quad 1 loss to Friends, who's obviously a quad 1 team. They have one quad 1 win. Lindsey Wilson has 4 losses in the season. I think that has to hold a little bit of weight. I know they have 5 quad 1 wins, but you do have a quad 2 loss on your record. Columbia doesn't. Eastern Oregon, they have 1 loss in the season to a quad 1 team, 4 quad 1 wins. I do think there could be an argument made of bumping Eastern Oregon up. And then Evangel, 1 loss in the season to quad 1 Columbia. Obviously, I can't put Columbia. I could not have put Columbia under Evangel considering they won head-to-head. So there is an argument to be made, and especially in the Lindsey Wilson case even, yes, they have more loss in the season, but they have a really big win over Freed-Hardeman. And that win probably holds more weight than I'm giving credit for right now. And with that being said, again, talking to some other people afterwards, if I could redo it, would I have put Columbia maybe 2nd 4 seed and put Lindsey Wilson up there? It's hard to say, just because when you look at certain things, like, I do think you gotta have to understand the record part of it too. And again, I'm not talking like, oh, I shouldn't have put Lindsey Wilson as a 6 seed. I should have put him as a 4 seed. I should have put him as a 4 seed over Columbia. No, I'm off by maybe a seed line. I can live with that. Should I have redone that? Maybe, but I think that other outside of quad 1, if you do have quad 2, quad 3s, quad 4 losses, those are gonna hurt a little bit. And again, one game cannot carry you into the national tournament as an at-large team. It can't, right? That's what auto bids are designed for. That's what conference tournament championships are designed for. If Lindsey Wilson's only big win of the season is against Freed-Hardeman, that will not hold you into the conference tournament. So that's kind of where my thought process was at. Now that outside quad 1 loss, that could keep you out of the tournament. That's happened for many teams. Now again, Lindsey Wilson will not be out of the tournament. They're talking about them as being a 4 seed. But in their case, probably more of, instead of being a 4 seed, maybe that bumps you down to a 5th seed or something like that. For Eastern Oregon, they have more quad 1 wins than Columbia. They have the same number of losses. The RPIs are the same. This is the one where I would look at and say, maybe I should have put Eastern Oregon a little bit higher. I will say, talking about losses themselves, I think the Friends loss is, because both losses, if I remember correctly, were at home. Both of them were at home. So, like, in case of at Eastern Oregon and at Columbia, if I remember correctly, if they weren't, if I'm remembering incorrectly, and it was actually at Southern Oregon that Eastern Oregon lost, then I think I should have definitely put Eastern Oregon. I should have gone Eastern Oregon, Columbia, Lindsey Wilson, Evangel, because Eastern Oregon did not lose at home. They lost on the road. More understandable. Columbia did lose at home. That's not that's going to hurt a little bit more. You got to be able to protect home court. It's going to hold a little bit more weight against you in that situation. If that was the case, I would redo this in that case. But again, still talking about 4 seeds. I think these 4 teams are on the 4th seed line as of stands today. We'll see how things progress through the rest of the season. 5th seeds: LSU Shreveport, Lewis and Clark State, Montana Tech, Corbin. I got LSU Shreveport as the highest number 5 seed. 2 losses in the season to quad 1 Loyola and MACU, 2 quad 1 wins, 19th in the RPI, first in the South Arc. Again, that first in the South Arc is going to hold a little bit of weight in this situation. Then we've got Lewis and Clark State. They're out of the Cascade, 4 losses in the season. They're all quad 1 teams. They do have 5 quad 1 wins though. That's a very big point there. Montana Tech, 2 losses on this season to a quad 1 team, but a quad 4 team. Corbin, 3 losses in the season to quad 1 teams, 3 quad 1 wins. There is an argument to be made, and I may have it looking at it, and this is the one that I really was going back and forth on. I just couldn't see Montana Tech as a number 6 seed today. I couldn't. Don't get me wrong. That quad 4 loss is going to haunt them. But one quad 4 loss is, again, it's not the best thing in the world. Your RPI is not even that high. The RPI is close to Corbin, 28-27. Again, this is one of the ones in this whole process where I went back and forth. Corbin over Montana Tech over Corbin over Montana Tech. I kept going back and forth. I really did. This is where I went with the Arcs, because even with the quad 4 loss on your record, you're a 4th seed in the West Arc. Corbin's the 5th seed in the same arc. So that's the only reason that I kind of went Montana Tech over Corbin in this situation. Again, that is kind of how they're gearing me to do. Even LC State, they're 3rd in the West Arc, right? There's a lot of West teams in this arc. There's a lot of West Arc teams in this seed line right now. So that's kind of how a lot of the people who know this a lot more than me have said that the process is going to go as season progresses. They're going to look at the arcs a lot more than they're probably going to look at RPIs, or they're going to look at RPIs, but they're going to look at arcs as the kind of definitely maybe a tiebreaker situation in like this, because like I mentioned, Montana Tech has a really bad loss in their schedule. It's a quad 4 loss. Like, quad 4 losses are not going to be good for you at all. But even with that quad 4 loss, they're still higher in the arcs than Corbin. And obviously that quad 4 loss was to Valley City, who is in the Frontier, and they're also would technically be in the West Arc. So all these things kind of play into factor. It's the only reason that Montana Tech is above Corbin, because if not, I would have put Montana Tech under Corbin. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a world where that quad 4 loss could bump you down a seed or 2, but they've been doing so well in the Frontier, top 2 in the conference, all that kind of stuff, that they've maybe kind of erased it to some degree. I think they've erased it from it hurting their chances of getting into the national tournament, but it'll be there when the seed line situation comes out and they're looking at the smallest details. Number 6 seeds, Concordia, Briar Cliff, UT Southern, Spring Arbor. Got Concordia as the number 1 overall 6 seed. They're going to be 4 losses in the season, all to quad 1 teams, 3 quad 1 wins. They lost to Dakota Wesleyan twice, Dordt, and Campbellsville. They're 5th in the Midwest. There are a lot of Midwest teams, or not a lot, but there's another Midwest team here in this arc, Briar Cliff, who also has 4 losses on the season. One of them is to a quad 2 team. They do also have 3 quad 1 wins, and they're 7th in the Midwest. Again, Concordia going to take that higher seed line in the 6 seeds over Briar Cliff. Now, UT Southern, they're another team, much like Dakota Wesleyan, much like I think Lizzie Wilson should have gotten that nod, where out of the Southern States, 4 losses in the season, all to quad 1 teams, but they have a big win over Bethel. So that is going to keep them over Spring Arbor, who doesn't have a win in the quad 1 department as good as Bethel. They have 3 quad 1 losses, 3 quad 1 wins, but none of those quad 1 wins have the same weight that beating Bethel, who at the time was the number 1 team in the country, handing them their first loss of the season. None of them have that. And also UT Southern is 6 in the RPIs. So they have enough of cachet and have done enough to be able to get that nod. They are a 6 seed team, Spring Arbor and UT Southern. But when we're splitting hairs, like I mentioned, UT Southern has enough on their resume, has more on their resume, I should say, to get that higher seed line. Now, the number 7 seeds, Friends, Huntington, Taylor, Oregon Tech. Friends would be the number 1 7 seed out of the KCAC. 2 losses on the season, quad 1 and a quad 2 loss. 4 quad 1 wins. They're 3rd in the Midwest. Huntington, 5 losses on the season to all the quad 1 teams. 5th in the North, 18th in the RPIs. Friends is 14th. Taylor, also out of the Crossroads, 4 losses this season to quad 1 teams, 1 quad 1 win. 1 quad 1 win. Right? It's gonna be a tough sell there. 17th in the RPIs. Oregon Tech is last in this seed pod because their RPI is really low and they have the most losses on the season. They have 7 losses on the season to quad 1 teams. They have 3 quad 1 wins, which is more than both Taylor and Huntington, but gotta I can't look over those 7 losses. 7 losses is way too much. Even if you were 500, if you were 5-5, I'd be more inclined to give you maybe over Taylor, maybe. But then you also don't, like I said, the RPI is being at 24. Can't really give you too much of a nod there. We're looking at the Huntington and Taylor situation. Huntington is also 5th in the North arc, and Taylor is 6th. So again, you kind of see where I'm trying to lean towards when it comes to these arcs, as the rest of the episode is going to go through. The number 8 seeds, Langston, USAO, Southern Oregon, Mid-American Nazarene. I got Langston over USAO, Southern Oregon, and Mid-American Nazarene. Langston, out of the sack, they have 2 losses on the season, both to quad 1 teams, and 2 quad 1 wins. They're 2nd in the South arc. USAO, who's 3rd in the South arc, so we're always going to start with that. They also have 3 losses in the season, and one of them is to a quad 2 team. Cannot give them the nod there with that loss and being below USAO in the arcs. Southern Oregon, 5 losses on the season. 4 of them to a quad 1 team. 1 is to a quad 3 team. A big thing for Southern Oregon is they are also holding on to that Eastern Oregon win. Now, that Eastern Oregon game is not going to have the same weight. I think, honestly, at this point in the season, I would say it's a great win. What have you done since? And there's nothing against Eastern Oregon, but this isn't a Bethel. This isn't a Campbellsville. This isn't a team who's been top 5 in the country all year. This is an Eastern Oregon team that just now recently started getting in the top 25. Now, that is not a good thing. I think they should have already been in the top 25. But even still, now that they've entered that upper echelon of the country, I need to see, can Southern Oregon do it again, especially because you're going to play them again, and what else they can do, because they have a lot of loss on the season. For Mid-American Nazarene, this is another one where if I could go back, looking over it again, 2 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 2 loss, 3 losses on the season overall, 2 quad 1 wins. If I could go back, I probably would switch Southern Oregon and want Mid-American Nazarene, just because Southern Oregon has that quad 3 loss. Mid-American Nazarene doesn't. Mid-American Nazarene has their losses are Dakota Wesleyan, Dordt, and Grandview. I think they should have definitely been over Southern Oregon, and not even to mention the RPIs. There are 10 RPI spots better than Southern Oregon. So another one that off by a seed line, that's okay. I do think these are the 8 seeds that I'm comfortable in saying there should be 8 seeds this season, but I think I should have put Mid-American Nazarene over Southern Oregon. Not going to trip over that one, though. Number 9 seeds, Georgetown, Shawnee State, Southeastern, Faulkner. Georgetown over all 3 of the Shawnee State, Southeastern, and Faulkner. Now, there's a lot of head-to-heads in here. Not a lot. There's a few head-to-heads in here. No, actually, there are a lot. Because, before we talk about Georgetown, Shawnee State beat Southeastern. Southeastern beat Faulkner. That's kind of where those 3 ended up. That it is. Now, what does also help my case, Shawnee State has the most quad 1 wins of these 3 teams. Southeastern is above Faulkner in the arcs, 9 and 10. And Faulkner has 6 quad 1 losses, no quad 1 wins. Sometimes I get lucky with the process. Again, I went head-to-head with all 3 of those teams, and it just so happened that the numbers kind of backed that up throughout the process. For Georgetown, 3 losses on quad 1, 3 losses in quad 1, no quad 1 wins. That definitely hurts a little bit. And looking at everything, there could be an argument to be made, because again, Georgetown, Southeastern, and Faulkner are all in the East Arc. Georgetown is actually 11th in the East Arc. It would not. Now, because of the head-to-head situation, though, right? I looked at it and I said, if that was the case, I can't put Shawnee State over Southeastern, because obviously Southeastern lost to them. And I can't put Southeastern over. And then, so in that situation, wherever Southeastern lands, Faulkner has to be under that. So the only other thing that kind of made sense to me in that thought process was putting Georgetown the last number 9 seed. But that definitely didn't make sense, because the only thing that Georgetown really doesn't have, aside from quad 1 wins, is the arc. And I get it. The arc is very important. But even with the arcs being important, head-to-head has to matter. And looking at Shawnee State has the overall head-to-head margin or head-to-head advantage in those three teams of Southeastern, Faulkner, and themselves, Georgetown has a better RPI by almost 10 than Shawnee State. So looking at that and thinking that thought process through, I said, okay, yes, there's no quad one wins. They have 3 quad one losses. It's actually the best situation of losses out of these 4 teams because Shawnee State has 4 losses on the season. One of them is to a quad 2 team. Okay. Southeastern has 3 losses on the season, but one's to a quad 2 team. Okay. And then Faulkner doesn't have any quad 1 wins. So in a world, not having a quad 1 win in this pod of the 9 seed line isn't actually the worst thing in the world. It doesn't help, but it isn't the worst thing in the world. So that's kind of where the thought process was. I went Georgetown almost by default because Shawnee State beat Southeastern beat Faulkner. Georgetown has a better RPI than Shawnee State by a good margin. And yes, the North Arc and the East Arc are the 2 highest ones. 11th in the East, 9th in the North isn't the craziest, difference. And then again, Shawnee State has a quad 2 loss on their record. So that's kind of where the thought process was. It was a little murky in this 9 seed because of the aspect of the 3 teams playing each other. None of them having any situation of a tie, all of them having one win over the other. That's kind of where the thought process went with it. And it just kind of didn't make sense for me to put Georgetown as the bottom of the 9 seed, considering that would have them under Faulkner, who has 6 quad 1 losses on their record. Yes, they're higher in terms of arc rating, but 6 quad 1 losses. If you give me 1, maybe we can talk about it. Maybe we can talk about it. 10 seeds. St. Francis, Carroll, Nelson, MACU. I got St. Francis as the higher seed line team in this pod. Carroll, Nelson, and MACU rounded out. For St. Francis, they have 1 loss to a quad 2 team, IU South Bend. Does not help their case. But then you look at Carroll, 5 quad 1 losses. Then you look at Nelson, 3 quad 1 losses. And you look at MACU, 3 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 3 loss. So, MACU, I went with the bottom one because even though they are actually higher in the arcs over Nelson in the South by a couple spots, by 4 spots, I cannot overlook that quad 3 loss. I can't. And I know that they're in the same conference and they're going to play each other. I can't remember right now. I'm blanking on who won the first matchup. I'm pretty sure it was Nelson, but I could be wrong. And somebody actually told me I am wrong. I might actually have to pull this up because I want to see, and now I'm kind of curious. But I do think that's kind of where I went. That quad 3 loss really is going to hurt MACU, losing to Texas Wesleyan, who Nelson hasn't. If Nelson would lose to them, then perfect. We're in the same boat, but they haven't as of now. So I can't really overlook that, right? Even though everything else says MACU. And so if you went MACU, I wouldn't be mad at it. But I'm a big guy on the types of wins you have. And if you don't have enough quad 1 wins to overcompensate for it, because you only have 1 more than Nelson, I really can't. I can't. Carroll, they have 5 losses in the season, all the quad 1 teams. They have 2 quad 1 wins. What I went with Carroll and St. Francis, to be honest with y'all, they're banking on that auto bid from the Chicagoland. They are the best team in the Chicagoland. Their RPI is one of the not greatest in terms of the teams we've seen already. I don't think, without the auto bid, if, let's say St. Francis didn't win the auto bid, I don't know. I think they still get in, don't get me wrong, but they might be lower in the seed line. They really might be, because they're 57th in the RPIs. Now, they're 7th in the North, so it helps to be in the North Arc. That quad 2 loss to IU South Bend is going to be a little bit dicier, but I do believe there is a world where, honestly, even Carroll would be over St. Francis. Dare I say? Right now, I kind of went with the arc in that one. I think the North is better than the West, obviously, but there's a world. There is a world. Talking about that Nelson game and MACU. Yes, MACU did win. And it was at MACU. So. Yeah, I can see it. I'm not gonna be mad at it, but the fact that MACU lost to Texas Wesleyan is the biggest reason, because Texas Wesleyan is also in the Sooner Athletic. So Nelson beating them, Texas Wesleyan beating the MACU. It's interesting. This is where it gets a little dicey, a little fuzzy, but this is what I went with. I'm cool with it. If they were, again, I'm off by a seed line. I understand it. I can see why. The 4th and the 8th is a pretty big difference, but I went 8th. I went with the 8th team a little higher than the 4th team because of that loss they have on the season and the fact that Nelson has beaten Texas Wesleyan now. Looking at the standings, everything before the 19th, twice since the 19th, right? And when you look at MSU losing that game, it's tough. It's tough. Moving on to the 9 seed line. Benedictine, Kansas, Rochester Christian, College of Idaho, Indiana Tech. This is another one. Things are a little murky. Not going to lie to y'all. We'll start at the bottom. Indiana Tech. Indiana Tech at the bottom. Why? They do not have a quad 1 win. They don't have a quad 1 win, so I could not put them over College of Idaho, Rochester Christian, and Benedictine, who all do have at least one. Now, College of Idaho, who's the third team in this situation, they have 2 quad 1 wins, but they have a quad 3 loss on their record, right? Then you look up to Rochester Christian, who is 11th. I know they're 11th, but this is a situation where the arc kind of didn't matter because Rochester Christian beat Indiana Tech. Rochester Christian is 11th in the North, and Indiana Tech is 8th in the North. But again, Rochester Christian beat Indiana Tech. So I could not possibly put Rochester Christian under Indiana Tech in any sense of the word. Not yet. I know their next game is coming up very soon, but I could not do it. And then Benedictine, I went with them over Rochester Christian, College of Idaho, and Indiana Tech because they have the records in terms of quality wins is almost the same. Benedictine is 3 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 2 loss, 1 quad 3 loss. Rochester Christian, 4 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 2 loss, 1 quad 3 loss. And then College of Idaho, 4 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 3 loss, right? So you could even make a case for College of Idaho over Rochester Christian because they both have quad 3 losses, but College of Idaho does not have a quad 2 loss, and they have one more quad 1 win. So I wouldn't be mad at it. Actually, looking at it now and thinking that through, I think I was so focused on the Rochester Christian Indiana Tech situation that I didn't really think about College of Idaho or Rochester Christian. Again, off by a seed line, happens. But I could see that. I could actually see that one. For Benedictine, though, I would keep them at the top because, no, actually, looking at this now, I think College of Idaho probably should have been the number 1. I think it's the first one where I'm off by 2 seeds here. I think I moved College of Idaho to the top of the number 11 seeds. Again, confident putting them in 11th. I just think now looking at it, thinking it through, yes, the quad 3 loss does hurt. And this is me thinking it through again now, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody out there that's saying, no, College of Idaho there where you have them originally is fine because losing to Montana Western, who, I mean, isn't let me see, because the Benedictine loss was to Tabor. And I want to see which of those teams has a higher RPI right now as the season stands, because I think that might be another situation where if it's not a good case, Montana Western, their RPI, last time I remember, it was not that low. That might have been the beginning of the year, to be honest with you guys. Going through, I still haven't gotten to them. Montana Western, they're 110th in the RPIs. Tabor is 120th. Yeah. Even the Montana Western loss is not as bad as losing to Tabor in terms of the RPI standings, obviously. So even in the RPIs, Benedictine's 40th, College of Idaho 35. So again, very close in similarities. But yeah, if I could go back, I would put College of Idaho higher than Benedictine and Rochester Christian, just because that I think it makes sense. I do think it makes sense. Obviously, things are ever changing. We'll see how this season progresses, but I think that's the change I would make on the 11th seed line. Number 12s, College of Ozarks, Grandview, St. Thomas, Hastings. College of Ozarks is going to be the highest 12 seed. 6 losses in the season, 4 quad 1, 2 quad 3. Not the greatest. They do have 4 quad 1 wins, the highest out of any of these teams. Grandview only has 1, St. Thomas only has 1, Hastings only has 1. So that's a big part of this. Looking at the arcs, the Midwest arc, Grandview and Hastings are both in that arc. Now, when you look at the breakdowns, you look at it, it's very close. I went Grandview over Hastings. 11th in the Midwest is Grandview. 9th is Hastings, because the breakdown of losses is almost identical. The only difference is Grandview has one more quad 2 loss than Hastings on the season. What I also am giving Grandview credit for, their one quad 1 win was against Mid-American Nazarene, and that was a very, very big win. For Hastings, I can't remember who their win was against. I'm going to pull it up here, because I do think, I think it wasn't a team as good as Mid-American Nazarene, if I remember correctly. Okay, I lied. It was Dakota Wesleyan. That's actually a very great win. That's actually a very, very good win. So, hindsight being 2020, so what I probably would redo, because St. Thomas is the third number 12 seed, right? I think I would bump up St. Thomas over Grandview, and then put Hastings over Grandview, and put Grandview as the last team in the 12 seed lines, because when you look at it, St. Thomas has a better RPI than both those teams by a good amount, almost by over 10 for Grandview and almost 10 for Hastings, 38 and then 49 and 45 respectively. And then you look at the only thing that holds St. Thomas back is the quad 3 loss, and I'm pretty sure that's why I had them behind Grandview. Could I put St. Thomas over? I think so. Again, another one where these three teams are kind of murky, because St. Thomas does have, they also have the lowest loss on the season at 5, compared to 7 and 6 for Grandview and Hastings. Yeah, I think so. I think if I redo it, I would go St. Thomas as number 2 in the 12 seed line, then Hastings is number 3 in the 12 seed line, and then Grandview as the number 4 in the 12 seed line. I think so. And then College of Ozarks, they beat St. Thomas, so I was not going to, wherever St. Thomas was, I would put College of Ozarks above them. And now that I've just redone it, that makes a lot more sense. So that's kind of where I would put it. Heading out of the 13 seeds, Cumberlands of Kentucky, of Tennessee, Indiana Wesleyan, Hope, and Milligan. Another, again, everything since the Tennessee line is real dicey. I'm just letting y'all, in case y'all haven't caught on to that yet. Cumberlands of Tennessee as the highest 13 seed. 5 losses in the season, 4 quad 1, 1 quad 2. They have a quad 1 win. Indiana Wesleyan, 7 quad 1 losses. 7. The only reason that they're above Hope and Milligan is because they don't have any quad 1 wins. And actually, moving forward, I think Indiana Wesleyan is one of the last few teams that have a quad 1 win. After that, if I'm counting here, there's only one other team that has a quad 1 win. 2 other teams. There are 2 other teams in the rest of my bracket that has a quad 1 win. 3. Well, that's a bubble team. So 2 that made it in the top 68, 6 in the top 64. So back to it. Looking at this, Indiana Wesleyan, the only reason I couldn't put them over Cumberlands of Tennessee, less loss on the season, obviously. RPI is better. They're very close in terms of arcs. Indiana Wesleyan's 12th in the north. Cumberlands is 13th in the east. And then Cumberlands also, they have a quad 1 win. Indiana Wesleyan has 3 quad 1 wins, but they don't have a quad 2 win. So that was another one, kind of a wrinkle in there that I thought should be noted. Not saying it should be a factor, but it should be noted. But the 7 quad 1 losses are definitely the biggest reason for me not having Indiana Wesleyan over Cumberlands of Tennessee. For Hope, did the GSAC auto bid. Don't really need to put too much into it. They are an auto bid team. They're one of the teams that does not have a quad 1 win. I had them over Milligan because they have less losses on the season, and they don't have a loss outside of quad 1. Milligan has 6 losses on the season. 5 are quad 1. There's 1 quad 2. And then they are also the AAC auto bid team. They're also 65th in the RPIs. So, again, got to give Hope that one, who's 52nd right now in terms of their RPI strength. Number 14 seeds, almost done here, folks. Number 14, Bryan, St. Xavier, Wiley, William Baptist. I went Bryan as the number 14 seed. AAC auto bid team, very, very big note. A lot of these teams moving forward, and again, it's just the truth. Your auto bids are going to be the biggest thing, right? I do believe, like, if the AC didn't have 2 auto bids, they get 1 for sure. Obviously, the conference tournament. Could they get 2 with an at-large if they were a 9-seed conference or 9-team conference? Yeah, but it'll probably be low. But there are some conferences that you're only getting one team, and that's your auto bid team. So Brian, 5 losses in the season. Biggest hit. 3 quad 3 losses. 3 quad 3 losses. Looking at St. Xavier, they have 6 losses on the season. They have a quad 2 and a quad 3. Granted, it's not 2 quad 3s, but that is an important part to make. And St. Xavier 60th in the RPIs, Brian 56th in the RPIs. And then you look at Wiley, the HBCU auto bid team. Also, St. Xavier would be the second Chicagoland team, the second auto bid team. Wiley's the HBCU auto bid. 4 losses in the season, a quad 1 and a quad 2 and a quad 3 loss. Again, no quad 1 wins. And then William Baptist, 3 losses in the season. All the quad 1 teams, no quad 1 wins, but their RPI is actually the lowest out of these 4 teams. 67th compared to 64 for Wiley, 60 for St. Xavier, and 56 for Brian. So giving in context, that's kind of where it went down with that. Seems like that's pretty self-explanatory as to why I put those 4 in that order. 15 seeds. This is the one that people might be the most curious about. Rocky Mountain as a 15 seed. They're not a 15 seed. They're not. I'll be the first to say it. They're not a 15 seed. But they're going to be a 15 seed just because of the inconsistency they had at the beginning of the year. 6 losses on the season, 3 quad 1s, 2 quad 2s, 1 quad 3, 3 quad 1 losses, 51st in the RPIs. Now, if I'm a 2 seed and I get Rocky Mountain in the first round as a 15 seed, I don't love it. It's not ideal, depending on who that 2 seed is. Would I dare go Rocky Mountain? I don't know. We'll have to see when that time does come. But I just feel like barring, they obviously have a really good win over Dakota State, and I get that. But you have so many hiccups at the beginning of the year. So Bismarck State is a first-year NAIA team, if I remember correctly. Benedictine Mesa, who having a good season in the GSAC, obviously, but still isn't a tournament team, in my opinion, right now. And Providence, who had a really good first half of the year. It's kind of stumbled off a little bit as of late, but they had a good first part of the year. You're 6th in the West. You know what I'm saying? Like, this team should not be a 15 seed. And this is the one team that, again, if somebody told me you're crazy, I understand. I do. But I can't overlook the beginning of the season and some of these losses. I can't. I just can't. So that's what I did. I am all for moving Rocky Mountain up to the 15 seed. I am. But y'all got to let me know where would you put them. And who are you taking out? And understand in this bracket how I've broken it down. Obviously, everything correlates to each other in some form or fashion. I move Rocky Mountain up. Someone's got to come down, which means someone else has to come down, which means someone else has to. So you got to understand that part of it too. You can't just focus on Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain should be a top. I think the floor of Rocky Mountain, 11 seed, 10 seed, maybe a single digit seed, no more than 8. So 10 to 11 range, you got 15. MSU Northern is the other team in the 15 seeds. Obviously, I have them below Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain is 6th in the West. MSU Northern's 11th. No need to explain there. Plus, no quad 1 wins for MSU Northern. 6 quad 1 losses for them. St. Mary's out of KCAC. 4 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 2 loss. That's the reason I have them out. And then San Antonio, Texas A&M San Antonio, the reason I have them as the bottom team out of the Red River, even though they're pretty good in the South Arc, 3 quad 1 losses, 1 quad 2 loss, and 1 quad 3 loss. The only team in this pod that has a quad 3 loss, so I got to give them that nod. The last seed, the 16 seeds, Oakwood, Northern New Mexico, Georgia Gwinnett, Haskell. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Northern New Mexico, Georgia Gwinnett, and Haskell, all of them are getting in with auto bids. I don't know if they can go above a 16 seed because their RPIs are way too low. I would actually love to see where they are in the arcs because that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. When we look at the arcs for Georgia Gwinnett and Haskell, out of the CAC, probably in the Midwest. No. I actually don't see them in the ARCs right now. Oh, there they are. So Haskell is the 11th in the ARC. Georgia Gwinnett is not even in the ARCs in the South. But again, I'm pretty sure the CAC is going to have 2 auto bid teams, so you got to give them 2. And I think Georgia Gwinnett will get that second bid. For the Cal Pac, Northern New Mexico is actually not in the ARCs for the Cal Pac. It's Simpson, but I'm running with Northern New Mexico winning the Cal Pac. I think they were my pick in the preseason. I'm going to stick with that pick. So that's the reason I have it. But I just don't see a CAC team or a Cal Pac team being above a 16 seed. I just don't. The RPIs aren't that strong. The quality of wins, I don't think, are going to be that massive in terms of difference. So that's where I have them. Oakwood is the only other team that could maybe move up into a 15, 14 seed. They do have 5 losses on the season. They are an HBCU auto bid, the second one. They do have 5 losses on the season, 2 quad 1, 2 quad 2, 1 quad 3. They're also 55th in the RPIs. They're 7th in the South ARC, which is not bad. So I do think they have a chance of moving up in the seed line fight here. But right now I got them at the 16 seed. That's going to do it for the 16 seeds. All the teams that I have, the breakdowns. Again, like y'all saw, and I'm not going to oh, this is a perfect bracket. It's not. I'm sure there's people out there who have broken my bracket down 10 ways to Sunday, 7 ways to Sunday, all of that stuff, right? They've just completely redid the whole thing. That's fine. I stand by this bracket because for the most part, and this is the biggest thing when I realized we're doing these brackets, they're not going to be perfect. But if you can explain it, that's all that matters in my book. Because until we actually get towards the end, some of these things are going to change. Because some of those conference tournaments are going to go different ways. That's going to really be the biggest thing. Once we have 2 more brackets left. We have the one at the end of the regular season right before conference tournaments start. And then we have the one right after all the conference tournaments are done before the selection show. Those are going to be the 2 final brackets. They're going to get better as the season progresses, right? The first one was not great. It was off of RPIs and quality wins pretty much and resumes, and even then I had to do some interpretation of what is a quad 1 win probably? What is a quad 2 win? And that's determined by the RPI rankings. I think the cutoff is 50-55 depending on if you're a home, away, or neutral site team. It's a whole thing. It's on the NAI website if y'all want to go check it out. So I'm pretty confident in this bracket. I don't think it was perfect. I think, as you saw, there were some things that I'm if I go back, I'd probably change this. But there was no situation, in my opinion, where the 4 teams that I had put in each respective seeds were not that level or that quality or that team, and where I was putting them from seed to seed. Everything that I said I probably would redo was within the seed, and I can live with that. Bubble teams, though, Bethel, Indiana, Kaiser, Providence, and then Bethel of Kansas. Bethel of Indiana at the crossroads, 10th in the North Arc, 6 losses, 5 quad 1, 1 quad 2, 1 quad 1 win. 44th in the RPIs. They would probably be the first team in if I could get in a 65th team. Kaiser, 4 losses, 1 quad 1. That they have 3 quad 2 losses, so that's going to hurt them. They do have a quad 1 win, so that does help. They're 59th in the RPIs, 14th in the East Arc. And then Providence, 8 losses, 6 quad 1, 1 quad 2, 1 quad 3. That quad 3 is going to hurt. They have no quad 2 wins, but do have 2 quad 1 wins. So they're 13th in the West Arc and 66th in the RPI. And then Bethel of Kansas, 7 losses, 3 quad 1, 4 quad 2s, 2 quad 1 wins, 62nd in the RPIs, 13th in the Midwest Arc. Again, all 4 of those teams I could see getting in on a sneaky thing. Bethel will be the number 1 team that I see going in there, but those are all 4 teams to keep an eye on in the bubble. And then teams to watch: Olivier Nazarene, Barisa, Sterling, and Paul Quinn. Dare I say all 4 of those teams need an auto bid, and that's why I have them as teams to watch, because they could be bid stealers. I could see Olivier Nazarene getting the Chicagoland. I could see Bersha getting the Rio Grande, and I could see Sterling getting the KCAC, and Paul Quinn an HBCU bid. So that's kind of why I have those teams on the watch, because they could get the auto bids here. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Report. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate y'all being patient, again, with this episode coming out on Saturday. A lot of schedule changes, a lot of things going on, so just had to push the episode back a day. Don't worry, we're still going to do our regular Monday, Friday stuff, so expect an episode on Monday, recapping a great weekend, previewing an even better weekend. And as we get closer and closer to conference play, things are only going to get more interesting. So thank y'all for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.